Hi, Emily from Duet here. Today's question is a very common one. It comes up a lot, pretty much every time I write an offer. So buyers will generally ask how long their offer is valid for. So the short answer to that is there isn't a hard and fast validity date. So it is within a reasonable amount of time. Now, quite simply, the way around that is that a buyer, if they do feel that their offer is sitting there too long, or they feel they're not getting any response, or they lose interest in the property before the offer has been responded to, they can simply withdraw that offer verbally via email, text message, leave a voice message with the agent. Very simply, they can withdraw that offer at any time, 5 minutes after it's written, 2 days after it's written, whenever. That takes me to the second part of this question, is that quite often I will have buyers wanting to add in a deadline or a validity date for that offer. In the industry, we call it a sunset clause, and generally it's an expiry date, so maybe a 24-hour period, 48-hour period, 72 hours, whatever it might be. Now, I will generally discourage a buyer from adding that condition to their offer because through experience, I have noticed that typically annoys the seller. So putting yourself in the seller's shoes, the seller is on the verge of making the biggest decision of their life at that point in time, with probably the biggest asset they own or have ever owned, and they might see a time clause as unnecessary added pressure for them to make a decision, and they might push back, or they might not respond the way that the buyer would be hoping. So I will always remind the buyer, look, let's leave that condition out. I will present your offer immediately to the seller. I'll keep you in the loop as to feedback, whether it be acceptance. They might decline the offer, or they might counteroffer it. I will be back with feedback as soon as possible, and that's typically either on the day, the next morning, or the next day, just to keep them informed. On the other hand, the sellers also need to be mindful that the longer they leave an offer on the table unanswered, the more risk is involved with that buyer possibly withdrawing an offer. You're not to know that maybe another property that appeals more to that buyer might come on the market the next day, or the buyer might just get cold feet over time and withdraw that offer. So it's always good to keep things moving. A good agent will make sure that they are closely and intensely communicating between buyer and seller to keep everyone in the loop, so no one feels like they're in the dark, and to just communicate every detail so that both parties feel reassured that the other party is considering their offer, or that something is coming in the form of a response that day or within an hour, or whatever it might be. So my advice would be, firstly, to buyers, be somewhat patient with your offer. It is a big decision for the seller. Don't put a time clause on it, or don't add unnecessary pressure. But communicate maybe with your agent. Let them know that you're looking at other properties and there's something else you might want to look at if this offer doesn't come off within a certain time frame. By all means, let the agent know that, and the agent can communicate that verbally to the seller. From the other side, if you're a seller, trust in your agent. A good agent will intuitively know if the offer has a sense of urgency and needs to be responded to within a certain time frame. And they will also make sure communication is flowing freely between both parties to keep everyone happy and the transaction nice and fluid. So it's a great question. It comes up a lot. If anyone has any other questions relating to real estate or offers or the general property market in Perth, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a DM or contact me directly. Thanks for listening.